why I wrote a speech. So all right, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, and thank you for joining Dan and Megan in this celebration of service and sacrifice. Fortunate enough to serve alongside you and count an even greater blessing of having you as a friend. Today is an opportunity for that blessing to show support and the like. And so we were doing a ribbon cutting on the gas station. You know, only at Fort Irwin is the ribbon cutting on the gas station a big deal, but it was a big deal. So as I'm driving up to the ceremony, there's a brightly colored Corvette that pulls up behind me, like revving his engine and everything. And I was like, okay, I'll ignore it and move on. So I pulled in my parking spot and I got out and walking towards the ceremony, and I see Dan and Lukey get out. And I was like, okay, I see. And so I give him a side eye, and so we continue walking on this ceremony. And so we're walking, Dan's holding Lukey's hand, we're just chatting, and so Lukey grabs my hand. And I look down at him and smile, and I look over at Dan, and he's red from head to toe. I asked him, I was like, hey dude, what is wrong? He goes, sir, I'm uncomfortable, this feels gross. And so I look at Lukey, and he's dying laughing, and I tell Dan, relax, this is as good as it gets. Dan began his career in May of 2002 upon graduation from the United States Military Academy, where he alleges that he was a Division I athlete. But most importantly, it is where he and Megan met. Army Aviators go through a rather intensive flight training program, and after nearly 2 years, he graduated from flight school and went on to his first duty station at Hunter Army Airfield. And even then, the seeds of Dan's future success were readily apparent, consistently amongst the top 3 junior officers, and excelled as he led his formations. Dan's talents were manifest in over 400 combat flight hours in Iraq during a year-long tour, the first of his 3 combat tours. The maturity, intellect, and abilities of this talented officer would be tested a year later as he went back to Iraq for a 15-month deployment, serving on his battalion staff. Having built a tremendous reputation as an incredibly talented, capable, reliable, and effective leader, Dan was selected to command an assault helicopter company and was again asked to answer the nation's call, taking his company to Iraq for his 3rd deployment with the 30th Division. Shortly thereafter, the family got a break and returned to his Virginia roots at the Marine Expeditionary Warfare School in Quantico, Virginia, followed by a year of graduate studies at the University of San Diego, and then another year at Command and General Staff College. Family moved next to Fort Bragg, now Fort Liberty, in Fayetteville, North Carolina, for an assignment with the famed 82nd Airborne Division. As an aviator, Dan was able to avoid all the jumping that 82nd is known for. But he no less proved that he belonged by his extraordinary performance as the Battalion S3 and XO, and distinguished himself by being selected as the Brigade S3, an honor that is held for the best and brightest within a formation. Once their time at Fort Liberty was complete, and on the credence that was provided by his excellent performance, he was assigned to the United States Army Strategic Command in Offutt Air Force Base in Nebraska, and at the National Airborne Operations Center. And just to kind of simplify it, you know, the National Airborne Operations Center is responsible for keeping the bird in the air in case of any time that there's a crisis. And those folks are on call 24/7. And during 9/11, they were activated immediately upon the first airplane crash to the World Trade Center. And so, an extremely demanding position and a no-fail mission for which perfection is the only standard, and where Dan excelled tremendously. While I briefly described how the Morrises spent a good portion of their first 16 or 17 years of service, Dan was asked then to do one of the hardest tests he had to do, which is explain to his wife why and how they were going to go to take command at Fort Irwin, California. And I can tell you personally, that's not as easy as to your wife. We'll go to the middle of everywhere. So in 2020, Morris family moved to Fort Irwin, the National Training Center, and I had our first opportunity to meet and began working together. And suffice it to say, he did an extraordinary job leading the 29th 16th Aviation Battalion. Commanders such as Dan not only have the job of accomplishing a very tough and rigorous mission, but they're also expected to build a capable team of talented individuals to enable a place like the National Training Center to function. Dan's first commanding general, General David Lesperance, had this to say about Dan. Dan commanded the Army's most diverse battalion with distinction. He shepherded the safety of his pilots in the most extreme conditions and never missed a mission. His potential to serve as a senior leader in our Army makes him one of the finest commanders I've served with in 38 years of service, and I would be honored to serve with him again. His second commanding general, General Kirk Taylor, who commands 1st Armored Division now, said, at an installation where we have some of the best warfighting lieutenant colonels in the Army, Dan was among the very best. He figured out how to train and develop leaders in the midst of a busy op tempo and flew more hours on his helicopters than any battalion in the Army. He did all this safely because he drove high standards and a cohesive climate within his battalion. I can personally attest to that amazing job in his leadership of the Raptor Battalion, and every day made me proud that his focus not only on discipline, but on taking care of people and making them the end and not the means. Dan created a well-trained and disciplined organization because of his leadership. In 2022, family traveled to Fort Sam Houston to serve as part of the Army South. He served the first year as the Chief of Aviation. Again, excelled, his talents were recognized, and he was selected as the Executive Officer and Military Assistant to Major General Thigpen. Major General Thigpen said of Dan, he's a phenomenal officer, leader, and aviator, and more importantly, he's an exceptional husband and dad. Without question, the best Lieutenant Colonel I've served with in my 32 years of active service. He's a true professional in every respect. His passion for soldiers, love for his family, friends, and the Army is worthy of admiration, and I'm humbled to have had the honor and privilege to serve with Dan in my last day in uniform. This incredible record and performance not only led him to be selected for promotion well in advance of his peers, but also, as I mentioned earlier, was selected for Brigade Command, again, another high distinction. In closing, Dan, today you're being promoted to the rank of Colonel. This promotion, this blessing, and this opportunity is not about what you've done in the past, it's about your potential and what you will do in the future. I have no doubt that you will continue to produce extraordinary results and serve honorably, but I charge you to do something far more important. You have always been known for your compassion and investment in your soldiers and those in your care. I would ask, and the Army demands, that you do even more. Your leadership, your example, your story, Megan's story, are all things that we must share with our next generation of exceptional soldiers. For our Army today, there's nothing more important to show the power of faith, family, and dedication. I thank you for your service. Congratulations again. God bless you and your wonderful family. And let's get you promoted.
This time I'd like to welcome Dan's wife and children. Please come forward and we'll publish the orders. Please stand for the publishing of the orders. Attention to orders. The President of the United States has disposed special trust and confidence in the patriotism, valor, fidelity, and abilities of Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Morris. In view of these qualities and his demonstrated potential for increased responsibility, he is therefore promoted in the United States Army to the rank of Colonel, effective 1 January 2025. Signed, Lloyd Austin, Secretary of the Army. At this time, the Morris family can promote Dad.
the awkward part. That wasn't a grunt.
Please join me in congratulating Colonel Morris and family. On occasion of promotion, it's customary for the officer to do the oath of office. Colonel Brunson will now administer the oath to Colonel Morris.
I state your name.
I, David Morris,
Having been appointed an officer,
having been appointed an officer, the rank of colonel,
solemnly swear
do solemnly swear that I will support and defend
the
the Constitution of the United States
States, all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
bear true faith
bear true faith
and allegiance to the same.
and allegiance to the same,
That I take this obligation freely,
that I take this obligation freely
without any reservation,
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion.
or purpose of evasion,
And I will well and faithfully
and I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office upon which I am about to enter. So help me God.
Ladies and gentlemen, Colonel Morris.
So a quick pre-disclaimer. These events are not my wheelhouse. This is the second ever public promotion that I've ever done. But some mentors of mine over time have explained to me that it is, and as I was trying to explain to my mom yesterday, these events are not for me. And it's an opportunity to recognize the people, the many people that have gotten me here. And who, without, I clearly wouldn't be here. And so I think this promotion, more than any other, is most deserving of that attention and that opportunity to give thanks to folks. I'll endeavor to move quickly through, and at the risk of offending some of the senior leaders, I wanted to do my family quickly, because they are the ones that I'm at most risk of compromising my military bearing, which I will never do, so I'm going to quickly go through that. Before I do that, though, just really quickly so I don't forget, Will, sincerely, Chaplain, Marie, the rest of Committee 1, Rainey, Army War College softball champs, and specifically the penalty box. Really appreciate you all being here and making this a special ceremony for my family. It means a lot to us. So family first. There's too many people here that know my wife, Megan, Nikki, to pull the wool over anyone's eyes. My wife is often very mean to me. And that's probably, those who know me know that that's exactly what I need. Or I quickly become a monster. But she's the best mom that I've ever seen or heard about. And so for my little guys, like I take a lot of pride in my service and the opportunity to serve, but it comes at a cost. And so we talk about it a lot, and I won't dive into it, but I really am appreciative, and I think about it often, and I don't tell them enough. How much I appreciate for the feeling that I get to serve, how much they sacrifice for it. I really appreciate it. So thank you guys. I've got some gifts, boys. I need you not to open these in here because we'll all get in trouble. but just a small token, the occasion of my appreciation. So as they've become accustomed to getting these gifts, someone started this tradition in the Army, and now we're stuck with it. Also to my wife, who doesn't normally support line roses. I wouldn't be able to do it without that team right there, and so I really appreciate them giving me the opportunity to do this. At the same time, I better thank my parents as well. Those who know my parents, ridiculous, unyielding support throughout the past, where are we at, 23 and a half years at this point. We were talking about it last night. My dad has flown across the country and driven my rear-wheel drive kind of race car across the country in the middle of a winter storm with the cat crawling all over his head in the car. My mom has flown out several times. You know, I didn't mention it earlier, but we did the math last night, and the longest we've ever separated a birth of a child from a PCS has been 3 months. And 2 of them have been in the same month. And anybody who's ever done that, there's a challenge. And my parents have constantly been there to make that manageable, or as manageable as can be. You know, there's a couple of facts that I don't like to say because those are the ones that choke me up, but my oldest son, Roman, is 13 years old, and this is the 8th home that he's lived in. James, he's 10 years old now, and in his 4th school. And Lukey is 7 years old, and he's never lived anywhere more than 2 years of his life. And so when you start to do the math on how many repeat birthday party attendees there are, it's a new crew every time we do it. And my parents have helped us shoulder some of that load. And so it taught me hard work. Knowing that I wasn't going to be the brightest guy in the room, I had to outwork people to get anywhere. And so I learned that from them, and I'll forever be grateful for that. Major General Thigpen, thank you for making it, sir. I want to go on record that we had a spot for you up front, but anyone who knows Major General Thigpen knows that this is his custom. And it is an example of his servant leadership and his humility, that he doesn't want the event to be about him. But sir, I'd like to thank you for changing the trajectory of my career, giving me an opportunity to continue to serve, which we've talked about a lot. I'll forever be indebted to you, sir, for that. Colonel Brunson, I know you think I pressed the easy button on having you do this, but it was actually quite calculated and deliberate. Number one, there's no greater master of eloquent, bloviated bullshit than yourself. So in an effort to hopefully look good today for my friends and family, I knew that you would be able to pull that off. But in seriousness, there's no mentor whose counsel I trust more, or more specifically, more caring a leader to speak to my family's dedication, which is what today's about. And so I knew that you would be able to give them the credit that they deserve in this. And so thank you, sir, for doing it, and it's a real honor to have you here doing that. On that same note, our team from beautiful NTC, Johnny O, Michelle, the girls, thanks for being here, making your way down from the less impressive War College. Such great teammates in command, couldn't have asked for better. And for those who don't know John, loyalty to a fault is how you would describe him, and how his Sergeant Major often described him, because he would often put the other unit in front of his own benefit. But it was noticed and appreciated, and it is hard to find teammates like that, and so I'm tremendously proud. I was more proud to hear about Johnny O making the list than I was myself. So thank you guys for being here and for being such good friends to our family. Another family that we've been reunited with, Dave, who's here. Michelle wasn't able to make it, but they were our next door neighbors in Omaha. And we moved to Omaha again a month out from having Lukey in the middle of winter, which is not a great time in PCS to Omaha if you've not been there. And Nikki and the kids actually had gone back to Reno for Christmas, and I was doing the unpacking boxes thing. And I looked out the window, and it's sideways blowing snow, and I see this lady and her little kid running up the sidewalk, and it's like less than 0 degrees outside, with a bundle of cookies to welcome us to the neighborhood. And that was kind of the beauty of Omaha. That was a really amazing opportunity, and now Dave, who's in the State Department, back here in the area and lives miles from us. And so it's really amazing what a small, fantastic world it is, and really appreciative for the time we had with you all and the welcome you gave us. And there's many families like that. And at the risk of trying to name them all, a few that stand out: the Bells, the Woodlands, the Dorches, the Shivers, the Forsters. Everywhere we've gone, we've had another family prop ours up, and that's kind of the beauty of the Army, which most of you in here know. To my family, my extended family that's here, my aunts and uncles and cousins. Throughout my career, I've lacked the character or class to appropriately acknowledge the support that you all have given me throughout the past 23 years. But please know that it was my failure to do so, and that I've never for once taken it for granted. Always been very appreciative for the support that you guys have given at every turn, and the encouragement and the wisdom and the mentorship from Uncle Mike, and just reaching out, Uncle Dick, and even my poor Aunt Cher was running around peeking in windows here in DC before we moved here, trying to figure out what house we were going to live in, moving from Texas. Thank you all so much for being here. Really appreciate the support that you've given over the years. My grandma and grandpa passed away a few years back, but hopefully this is a world where they're able to know what's happening today. They were my motivation not to fail for many years. My grandpa's father was a World War II vet, and he was singularly the person that I was afraid of disappointing throughout my career, and he had reason to be concerned, because many times it almost didn't happen. And I'll talk about a few of those quickly here in a second. But he would have been impressed, sir, that you were an Eagle Scout. Will wanted to take it out, and I told him we had to put it back in there because my grandfather was big on that. And I think he would have been impressed that the little redneck that used to run around naked in Virginia made it here today. And so hopefully he's able to know that. To the Virginia boys who are in attendance, I've never had my friends from back home have a promotion before at an event like this, and it's a little bit frightening because it feels like mixing church and state, a little bit risky move, having my friends, the River Crew. But I wanted to specifically thank you guys, number one, for being here today, but also another group of folks that have largely nothing to do with the military. Most of them 100 did serve and just retired, but who have been so supportive, which is not, I don't know, it's just not a network that I thought I would receive that kind of support over the years. Always congratulating, always pumping me up, and so thank you all for being here. It means a lot to me and my family. And at the risk of overpetting, there's one individual I want to specifically call out, and that's Jeremy, my buddy who played lacrosse with me at West Point. For those who know Jeremy, almost to a gross degree, he's constantly tire pumping other people and churching up what they do that's awesome and making everybody feel good about themselves. And we're all probably, it's so annoying that we don't do a good job of doing it back to him, but I wanted to publicly acknowledge that the support that this dude gives myself, my family, everyone around him is really kind of a special trait that you don't see every day. So I appreciate the tire pumps, and thanks for being here, Jeremy. I won't hold it against your wife, you decided to do it. Finally, I just wanted to take, and I know I'm going long, but I wanted to take a moment to, I've been telling these stories for a long time to junior soldiers and people that I've worked with. It's a little bit of a PSA. But in 10th grade, I quit playing baseball, and I was awesome. But with burnout, that's a dig at Colonel Brunson, who claims to be the better baseball player. I was burnt out, and in the middle of 10th grade baseball tryouts, decided to quit. My dad was mortified. He's like, "You got to get a job immediately." He could see the writing on the wall. I was going downhill fast. And I was in high school, and I had a new, first individual I want to talk about, I had a new gym instructor. First 2 years, I guess, you still had gym class in high school. And I had a brand new gym instructor who was there, Coach Van Lunen, who made it all the way up here today from Nags Head. And he said, "Well, you should come out for lacrosse." And there was a few things that aligned. There was an old a mailman that happened to live in my neighborhood out in the country that would spend time with me in the afternoons out in a cornfield practicing and teaching me. Got weird. Essentially giving me private lessons and then coach. And I don't understand how it happened or how coach got it, because I knew lacrosse to be a preppy sport. I was a redneck. It didn't make sense. But he somehow talked me into it. And it has been one of the single life-changing things that's followed me. That opportunity to go to a school that I never would have gotten in, to meet people that I never, the caliber of people that I never would have met, to have this amazing career, all kind of started with that small investment. And I don't know if he just, noticed what a physical Adonis I was, what his motivation was, but it changed my life. And so, Coach, thank you for being here. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it, and I always have. There's another guy I spoke to on the phone yesterday. He couldn't make it today, but Dr. Chris Grover is a veterinarian out there in the country where he used to live, and he put himself through vet school, regular college, vet school, and then business school. Opened up this small veterinary hospital out in the country. This was around the time my dad thought I was turning into a booger. And so he's like, "You need to go down there and try to get a job." And I did. And this guy took a chance on me, which was risky. But I learned lessons from him about leadership, and specifically caring leadership, before I even knew what I was looking at. Lessons, and I think back to that time there often, how he led that team, the time and investment that he put into me. He would buy me books to read, and really spent a lot of time working on me as a young man and my character and where I was going to go. And so I need to thank him publicly for all these years and the lessons that he's taught me. And finally, another gentleman I reached out to, his name is Timothy Whalen, and he was my rock math instructor at West Point my plebe year. Rock math, in case you don't know, you do placement exams when you get there, and I was an idiot, so I was in the very lowest math that you can be in. And part of that is if you fail, there is no lower math to go to, so they politely ask you to leave. And so there's a lot riding on that first year. And long story short, he's a major at the time. I don't even know if he had a family. I assume he did, like most that were teaching here at West Point. But it came down to determine, and I needed an A to pass the course, or else I was going to have to leave the academy and look my grandfather in the face and tell him that I didn't make it and that I kind of failed. And so I was pretty panicked. And this major said, "Hey, it wasn't good news at the time. He's like, "Hey, after lacrosse practice and dinner, come back down to the schoolhouse and we're going to get on the boards, and we're going to work problems all night. And we did that for a week or two. And I didn't appreciate, I was focused on myself at the time, but he had a family. He's down there at night instead of watching Netflix or whatever we did before Netflix. And he's got me on the boards working problems. And so, again, long story short, I got an A on the exam. But when I looked, they used to post your grades up on the hallway. And so when I looked at it, they would put a line for those that didn't make the cut. And so there was a line above my name that had been erased, and then there was another line below my name that said I was in, that I had made it, and it said, "Come see me." So of course I'm terrified, but I went to his office, and he confessed that I had only missed it by like a couple of percentage points or something, but he redrew the line because of the effort that I put into battling to try to come back. I was falling asleep in class. Doing sports at the academy and academics when you're not that smart is difficult to do. But he was giving me that credit, but really the credit was his. And so that's, I guess, what I wanted to kind of commend to you all today, that he's the one that got me over that line. So I've reached out to him. I found him, I finally tracked him down on LinkedIn, and I've reached out to him. But I tell you those three stories to say, if you work with young people, my cousin's a lacrosse coach, several teachers in the audience. If you work with young people, the investment that you make in them will pay dividends. I like to believe that the opportunities that I've had because of those people have enriched others' lives, that I've had an opportunity to give it back to folks that I've worked with. And so I would tell you that what you're doing is super important. Sacrificing those things that you sacrifice to do that, it matters. So thank you all for what you do. And if you have an opportunity to reach out to the young people in your community, I think this country will benefit from you doing that. And so thank you all again today. For people that I didn't specifically name, please know how much you mean to me for being here today and this opportunity. And thank you for your selfless investments in myself and in my family.
I'm a committee member of Dan. I just personally share that we got a lot of friends and family back, professional friends and family, but don't let Dan fool you. He's one of the hardest working, smartest individuals in the school, and he lifts like all 250 of us up higher every single day. And so he speaks very highly of his family and his children every single day. He's got a story to tell about you guys. So Dan, from personally and professionally, I get to know you, and thank you for giving me this opportunity here today to get to know you and your family a little better. What a tremendous ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and join us in singing the Army song. The lyrics are on the back of the program. If needed.
Nope, it's the same one. It's a good one. March along, sing your song, we're the army of the free. Count the brave, count the true, who have fought to victory. We're the army and proud of our name. We're
God is strong for you. Wherever we go, we will always know that the army is rolling along.
This concludes today's ceremony. Colonel Morrison and family invite you to join them in the back for some cake and coffee. Please hang around. Feel free to congratulate the Morris family. Thank you all for your attendance. Have a great weekend.